Hi, I'm Todd York. In this video, our organization examines the water needed for firefighting. We specifically address water issues raised during the recent Pacific Palisades fire. This video provides education and facts to assist people in grasping complex water issues, and we do not advocate water policy. We encourage people to fathom their water, to reflect and contemplate upon it. We make this video in honor of first responders, and we hope this video assists the Pacific Palisades residents in making decisions about their future community.
If a person searches Google using the term Pacific Palisades fire, then they will receive an avalanche of news headlines. Here are some that our staff saw pop up after doing our own search. In this video, we plan to explore these headlines and go beyond them while providing an extended look at how water moves throughout California and specifically how it arrives in Pacific Palisades. The challenges facing Pacific Palisades in the future also affect the majority of Californians. Here, in this video, we present facts so that people can make informed decisions about their water supply and decide how to further protect themselves in the future. First, let us dispose of simpler items to explain. Yes, the hydrants ran dry, but in large neighborhood fires, the plumbing in burning houses bursts, leading to many leaks in the water system, substantially dropping water pressure. During the Pacific Palisades fire, firefighters opened a multitude of hydrants and so many houses burned that water pressure quickly dropped, and the local water supply quickly ran out. Relatedly, 3 tanks in the Palisades were reported to contain about 3 million gallons of water. HydroFathom released a previous video about this, please watch.
News media has reported that the water tanks in the Pacific Palisades neighborhood held 3 million gallons, which sounds like a lot. In a fire, how long should that last? Well, a single fire hydrant can drain a 1-million-gallon tank in about 1 day. 25 hydrants at once can drain the same tank in 1 hour. In a fire the size of the Palisades fire, 3 million gallons would only last a few hours. Then, the tank would need to be replenished by pumps.
As explained, for fire protection 3 million gallons is not much. Yes, the ocean laps at California. However, excessive salt levels can kill most land-based plants. In practice, spraying ocean water over Southern California would destroy the native vegetation and would permanently denude the natural landscape. Ocean water on the land would salt the land and destroy most plant life for years. If this wasn't true, farmers would just irrigate crops with ocean water. The Santa Ynez Reservoir would have contained a substantial reservoir of water if full, 117 million gallons. Still, here we show the neighborhood in red and the hilly dry vegetation areas in yellow. Now, the reservoir in blue. Examine the size of the reservoir in comparison to the size of the neighborhood. The Palisades fire covered over 23,000 acres, 35 square miles. All the water in the Santa Ynez Reservoir, when full, would only cover that large fire area with about 1/10 an inch of water. Consequently, even this large reservoir would not have been wholly capable of extinguishing such a massive fire. It is like a squirt gun against a blast furnace. Still, this reservoir water, if present, probably would have saved some structures. In 1908, in the San Francisco fire, one hydrant that maintained flow, the Golden Hydrant, likely saved the Mission District from burning down. If one hydrant can make such a difference, then keeping water flowing to hydrants is of paramount importance. Of all the issues raised in the press, this issue likely demands the most need for follow-up and new innovative solutions. HydroFathom previously released a short Facebook post on super scooper planes. A fundamental fact of water is that it is heavy. The weight of water limits the capabilities of firefighting aircraft, confining their use to suppression foremost, not extinguishing, but voluminous quantities of water are best moved on land. Outsiders declare that California needs more storage capacity. They fail to account for the 1,300 dams already in California. As a note, virtually no natural lakes exist in Southern California. Type Los Angeles lakes into Google Maps, dozens of dots appear. Most large water bodies called lakes in Southern California are human-made reservoirs. No reasonable solution to most California water issues lies in additional large storage capacity because most of the state's water resources have already been dammed. It is worth noting that when engineers design municipal water systems, their paramount concern is fire prevention and suppression. During a fire, municipal systems flow more water than at any other time. Still, water systems simply cannot suppress any and all fires. A massive fire, like the Pacific Palisades, would likely overwhelm any water systems. Nonetheless, undoubtedly, the longer and better that a water system functions during a fire, the better. Basic topography shapes the water system of California. Due to the height of the Sierra Nevada mountains, some of the most intense precipitation in the country falls at high elevations in California. As part of the natural cycle, this precipitation falls seasonally, with snow collecting in 3 short winter months and melting the rest of the year. Rain and snow fall mainly in the north and up high in California. Much of the lower southern half of California receives no rain for several months. Most of the snowmelt in the Sierras runs off the west slope of the range, powering an annual deluge that flows towards the valley. Yearly precipitation amounts vary greatly and swing across decade-long cycles of wet and dry years. The natural flow of the water included a southern water flow from rivers beginning at the San Joaquin River and flowing north. A more substantial flow comes south down the Sacramento River from sources that extend up north into Lower Oregon. This water collects in the delta near Sacramento and flows to the ocean right past the Golden Gate Bridge, at a place called. In the valley, the Bureau began to reclaim land in the 1930s. When the waters flowed naturally in California, large lakes stood in the Central Valley since the water often became trapped in the southern end. About every 7 years, the lower valley flooded, and the flood waters would join to the San Joaquin River and head north to the delta. The U.S. government eventually decided to reclaim the land under the lakes and to also eliminate seasonal flooding. The federal government dammed 4 rivers, the Kern, the Tule, the Kaweha, and the King, while also building reservoirs to hold the water for storage. This cut off the sloughs while drying and shrinking the lakes, all while creating the most productive farmland in the country. The federal government eventually expanded their project to 20 dams, 10 power plants, and 640 miles of river-sized canals. The largest canal in Lower California, the Free Ant, Kern Canal, flows at a rate of 35,000 gallons per second and serves to wall off the low-lying valley from the mountain runoff. Farmers formed districts to tap the federal canals. More canals lay in the Central Valley than in all of Holland. The government's efforts in the Central Valley have primarily benefited agriculture. The current federal water control system in California irrigates 3 million acres of farmland, including in the powerhouse counties of Fresno, Tulare, and Kern. These 3 counties dwarf the farm production of most states. Tulare, the highest producing county, produces over $1 billion of products a year, including milk, grapes, cattle, oranges, nuts, corn, alfalfa, hay, cotton, and plums. We show here the difference between water and no water in the Central Valley. The trees on the right were uprooted after a prolonged drought that ended in 2023, and the ones on the left are still being supplied with human-managed water. So, let's stop and address the concept that water was restored by the federal government after the Palisades fire. We show the release points here. On the left, in red, we show the state system that leads to Los Angeles. The lower federal water system only connects to the state system that leads to Los Angeles at the Kern Intertie. We show the Kern Intertie here in 2023 when opened due to flooding. This interconnection has only existed once in the last 17 years and was not open at all in 2025. The water released by the federal government was released from the lower water system after the Pacific Palisades fire. Likely, the water releases went to holding ponds where the water soaked into the ground. These water flows occurred days after the Palisades fire, and added nothing to the supply of Los Angeles.
So now we look at one of the 3 major systems that supply Los Angeles. Long before a federal system existed, a local Southern California city decided to take their water supply into their own hands. Despite the ominous lurk of the federal government, California state and local governments have charted their own course to assure a secure water supply for their cities and farms. The state and local water control systems double the capacity of the federal system. Furthermore, the state and local systems supply most of the municipal water in California, including urban firefighting water. The good folks of early Los Angeles constructed an aqueduct north to a natural river, the Owens River, led by their water commissioner William Mulholland. They tapped a meager river that gathered water melting from the east side of the Sierras, the drier side. Lying to the east means that the Owens River flows meekly compared to its western cousins, which stream into the Central Valley. Still, the Owens River held enough water to greatly expand the Los Angeles water supply. The population of Los Angeles grew by almost 1 million people in the next 20 years after the completion of the aqueduct. Operated mainly underground and formed from water conduits that are essentially an interconnection of long boxes, the aqueduct relies only on gravity to operate. The Los Angeles Aqueduct provided the first abundant water supply to Los Angeles and set the precedent for water movement across California.
Although impressive, the Los Angeles Aqueduct eventually could not supply the needs of Los Angeles and other Southern California communities. So, these municipalities banded together to form an organization called the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California. They tasked this government entity with building another aqueduct, this time to the much larger Colorado River. Today Metropolitan serves 27 member agencies while managing most of the water being imported into Southern California for about 30 million residents. At HydroFathom we say that a drop of water can fall in Wyoming and later be consumed in Hollywood. The Colorado River combined with the Colorado Aqueduct make this possible. HydroFathom promotes an idea called the water chain. This concept describes our modern water supply as a combination of natural resources and modern infrastructure built by humans. After the formation of the Metropolitan Water District in 1928, the district began construction of the Colorado Aqueduct in 1933. This aqueduct now provides over 1 billion gallons of water per day to Southern California and outperforms the Los Angeles Aqueduct by a factor of 4. The major municipal water supply project in California is called the State Water Project, operated by the Department of Water Resources. This system relies on a massive dam at Lake Oroville, California. The dam blocks the Feather River and stores water for the whole state. The water flows down the Sacramento River when released and enters the San Joaquin-Sacramento Delta. Some federal water also enters the delta when released from dams at locations like Lake Shasta or Lake Trinity. Releases from these dams could increase the water supply of Los Angeles, but they would still need transportation through the state system and then take weeks to arrive after released. To transport water further south, massive state-operated pumps on the southern side of the delta, at the Clifton Forebay, pick water up and pump it into the California Aqueduct. Here it begins its journey south, strategically being routed downhill. Much of this water eventually arrives in Southern California about 300 miles away after being lifted by colossal pumps over the mountains that separate Los Angeles from the Central Valley. As a note, neither California nor the U.S. government can pump from the delta without restriction. Already, gargantuan diversions by the state and federal projects have depleted the delta, letting saltwater intrude into the delta and threatening Bay Area water supplies. While the state does maintain water levels for fish, about 80% of the delta natural waters are already extracted, which causes these fish to suffer. So, restrictions occur on pumping for many reasons, not just to save a fish. Water restrictions have not impacted the supply of water for firefighting in Southern California ever. The Los Angeles Department of Water and Power funnels water through treatment plants and distributes it down branches that lead to places like Pacific Palisades. Like a leaf acting in reverse, water funnels out to Los Angeles fed from rain hundreds of miles afar. This relocated water gets herded, pushed, and cajoled along until it springs forth in Southern California. The mighty feed system must operate. However, adequate water and infrastructure along the last links of the water chain most affect the availability of water for firefighting in any neighborhood, and an available water supply only helps when trained firefighters deploy this resource. Here we see the trunk lines that feeds Los Angeles and the long single trunk line that serves the Pacific Palisades. At the Cascades in Los Angeles, the old Mulholland water still pours into the area. Mr. Mulholland said when the water first flowed, "There it is, take it." Los Angelinos truly have taken the water. Yet, all Californians should reflect on the arid nature of their chosen state and our overall interdependence on an interconnected chain to supply water to their neighborhood.
Hi, Todd again, and I hope you found this video informative. I finished with a few thoughts. At HydroFathom, we say water flattens society. The same water supply goes to the rich and the poor, all neighborhoods. Unfortunately, fire also flattens society, wreaking sorrow all along its path. I'd like to assure our fellow residents that our Golden State water managers do not let houses burn to save fish. Additionally, the federal government recent water releases did nothing to increase the water supply of California, and only about 10% of the water supply in Southern California comes from the federal system. We live in a dry state, covered by vast quantities of dry vegetation, which can cause fires of ungodly proportions. The extreme size of these fires limits the ability of any water supply to extinguish the fires. For now, I ask that you fathom your water supply and use your self-knowledge to guide our community to the best solutions that the Golden State can produce to help us all cope with these fires. Thank you, and God bless Pacific Palisades.